to On the Media's very first live stream ever.
Good afternoon, I'm Joe Baker, a member of the Delaware Tribe of Indians.
Good evening and welcome to a virtual green space. I'm John Schaefer, the host of WNYC's New Sounds, and with the green space physically closed and with our annual New Sounds Live concert series on hold, we've had to figure out other ways to bring you some great musicians playing great music. And tonight, you're going to hear the veteran New York new music ensemble Ethel. The violinists Corin Lee and Kip Jones, violist Ralph Farris, and cellist Dorothy Lawson all joining me in the virtual green space, which is totally appropriate because for those of you who don't know, the green space is New York Public Radio's ground floor performance studio right on the corner of Varick Street and Charlton Street, ground floor of our building where our studios are. And the very first ensemble to ever play there live was Ethel. So they are joining me again tonight with a typically diverse group of pieces that they're going to play for us. And I just want to hit you with this first one right away because it's a great opener from Brooklyn's own Dan Friel. Here is Ethel's version of his piece called Valedictorian. There you have it, announcing themselves with a tank of a piece called Valedictorian from Dan Friel. Kip, you did this arrangement, right?
I did.
Now, Dan is known as he's well known on the noise scene here in New York, but when you strip away the distortion, you find the guy has an incredible ear for melody.
For sure. I mean, and his records are one great tune after another, and then they're layered on top with this orchestration of. I suppose one might call it noise, and somebody else might call it like a radical loudnessing of the entire harmonic series all at once. It just doesn't matter how high the overtones go up. It's just like, let's take them all. So the violin is like that. You can bring the bow a little bit closer to the bridge and start bringing those harmonics into play. And we're a good fit for this kind of music to begin with. And we love Dan. So it often sits as a closer for us, but it's nice to open with it for a change.
Yeah, and Dan's a neighbor, so I wanted to get that in there right away. Because I did not want to start with getting lost in the weeds of string technique and stuff like that. But inevitably, Ralph, one of Ethel's listeners has written in with a question, and I will just read it to you. Ralph, your bow is backwards. What's up with that?
Fun. Okay, I think we're referring to the tip of my bow here. This is isn't it interesting that I just had it sitting around waiting for this question? This is the frog of the bow right here, and the tip actually looks very much the same. This is called the Incredibow. It's made by some folks. I think they're in. Yes, it is. I think they're in Arkansas. If you look at Incredibow.com or something, you'll find them. This is actually laminated. Something or other really cool sort of shiny blue stuff. But there's a shrink wrap, sort of rubber shrink wrap on the tip and on the frog. So that's why the frog does look like the tip. Although I have been known to play with the bow backwards, and check in with me later if you want more info on the Incredibow. But it does tend to drive my colleagues crazy because the thing is ridiculous to look at, but it's really fun to play with, and it seemed perfect for this serious work of playing Dan's tune Valedictorian, which we love so dearly.
So Dorothy, what's it been like? I mean, first of all, just on a practical level, for the four of you to continue to try making music. For example, how did you do that Dan Friel video?
Each of us set ourselves up in our own homes with a consistent visual range. We all had videographers on hand and people who helped us capture our own playing in a free form. This was described in advance by Kip, who has been our editor-in-chief all year through the entire pandemic, and he had a vision. He had a vision for this this monumental event, and it worked. It worked great. It was just random enough that having four amateur videographers just playing with the stuff, came together. It was really fun.
So Ben, when you say videographer, you basically mean family and friends pressed into service.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
It's the best.
So one of the interesting things is about Ethel is that you are known for good reason as a band that specializes in contemporary music. You commission works, you do your own arrangements, you write your own pieces. But I was really intrigued by a program that you've come up with called Ancient Airs and Dances, which you're not the first to use that title. The Italian composer Ottorino Respighi famously used it for a kind of a suite of orchestral showpieces based on medieval music. Where did the four of you take that idea of ancient airs and dances?
Well, the actual Respighi piece was an inspiration for the title, and we while we weren't necessarily looking to go and replicate that particular work, the title's so cool, and what Respighi did with these ancient airs and dances was a wonderful leaping off point for us, where we were in fact going to be taking ancient airs and dances, or earlier music, which we haven't really touched that much in our professional life, take that earlier work and then reconsider it, recontextualize it into Ethel's world. So that may mean looping, that may mean backing track, that could mean add voices where there just really weren't supposed to be. That may mean subtracting a beat out of a very well-loved classic. All sorts of things that we would do to ethelize these older celebrated works, or maybe lesser known works, to bring them into our space and shine a new light on them.
Well, it's been noted for quite a while now that there's kind of a confluence of early music and new music, that the vocal styles, the lack of vibrato in the string playing, there's lots of things that make early and modern music very compatible with each other. And yeah. I assume you guys knew that going into this, but Dorothy, it sounded like you had something to say.
Well, that was exactly what I was thinking as well, was that the instruments of the time of the earlier centuries, let's say the 13th century through the 16th or 17th or 18th centuries, which was what we were looking at, were less powerful. They were not constructed with steel strings. They were gut. They were on a just altogether their range of dynamic projection depended on other values. And one of the big values that transcends time is rhythm. And in fact, our music, Ethel's music, has been, to a large extent, an exploration of rhythms as they transcend style, genre, country, period, because back when we began, the colloquial music of our world, of our times, was still foreign to the concert setting, to the concert house setting. And we embraced it and ran barreling into, theaters with sounds from rock and jazz and pop and, all these other styles. And it was a refreshing, exciting, regenerative experience. So the music of those days, the Renaissance and the Baroque, and it was jammed with great rhythm.
Yeah,
just so much fun. And when you play it, it's, I think, still very, very surprising how inventive and clever and jazzy it is. How groovy it is.
Well, interestingly enough, as we begin to sort of go through and sort through this set of ancient airs and dances that you've put together for us, Corin, we begin with your arrangement of music that's from even before the 13th, 14th, 15th centuries, the 12th century German abbess Hildegard of Bingen. Now, there's not a lot of rhythm here. In fact, it's that kind of, it seems like it's that the flow of the breath was so important to her as a composer. What have you done with O Frondens Virge?
Basically just made a very simple arrangement inspired by voice. As you said, there's a lot of breath in there. It's not really a pulse or dance, anything like that. But just maintain that atmosphere and put it for strings, and hopefully everybody enjoys listening to this on a holy level.
Well, and a lot of what set her music apart from the other music of the time was the melody is very florid, compared to the very stepwise movement of Gregorian chant. So she gave you a fair amount to work with, even though there's just the one line. But I guess you have to then figure out how to accompany that, right?
Yeah, we have Dorothy and Ralph playing the drone, and then a canon at the end. And before Ethel, I was actually in the Yale Baroque Ensemble. So going from Baroque to modern was a very easy transition, thanks to Robert Mealy. But yeah.
Okay. So that piece by Hildegard, O Frondens Virge, is the first of four short pieces, which is followed, Kip, by, I'll say Bach, because when I first heard this, I was like, oh, Bach Brandenburg number 6. And within a minute or two, it was like, maybe it's not Bach Brandenburg number 6. What have you done to this pretty familiar bit of Baroque music?
It's a terrible joke, but it's music from the Balkan Peninsula. I've taken one eighth note.
You're going to own that joke, huh? You're just going to own it.
I've actually never made it before. My colleagues, you can see they're genuinely smiling. I'd never thought of it until this very moment. And so that's genuine laughter you see on the faces of my colleagues. I took 1/8 note out of each measure and put it in 7/8, and it works great. Full disclosure: this piece was before Ancient Airs and Dances was a show and an artistic kind of direction on its own. We performed this piece with Khaki King a number of times, and so if you can imagine, the four of us, rocking out with the two-hand tapping thing happening behind it. This was a real good showpiece for the five of us, and it was easy to rework it for this in a way that sort of brings a different buoyancy to a piece that we all know and love.
So the very kind of four-square rhythms, to come back to what Dorothy was saying before, have now been turned into something almost like one of those Arab limping rhythms where it's...
Sure. Yeah, or like a cumbia, where one person's leg is always chained to manacle to something else, and the kind of miraculous thing about the piece is that the nature of the self-canon and then the nature of the different lengths of the phrases is such that you don't really, once the initial shock of it goes away, you don't really notice how much work Ralph and Corey are doing. But they're counting like madmen to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And I'm the violist here. I'm looking at this is not how every measure. Wait, leap, it's crazy, but it is amazing. It is so much fun to play.
All right, so that's second in the set. Then Dorothy, your version of a beautiful piece by Thomas Luis de Victoria called O Vos Omnes. That's a choral work originally, right?
Yes, it's a motet. De Victoria was the most significant composer of Spain in the 16th century, and motets were an extremely popular form of writing. Really, motets were a big part of mostly vocal writing from the 13th century all the way through to the 17th century, and all the word means, all motet means, is a multi-voiced work based in words, and the French word mot is fundamental to the word motet. We took the words out. They are epic. We would reference them. We want people to know what the original texts are, but they are liturgical, of course. But the essence is four voices supporting each other, traversing an extremely poignant, meaningful journey together.
Mm-hmm. And then to wrap up the set, the most rhythmic, dancey part of the Ancient Airs and Dances, at least that we're getting to hear tonight, Ralph, your arrangement of an anonymous étampi, which basically like a stamping dance, right?
Yeah, it's probably 13th century approximate, probably French. When we started this program, I did a deep dive. I built a playlist of just all the early music I could find, and knowing full well that at some point I was probably going to end up with the soundtrack of Tous les Matins du Monde, probably, because I love that soundtrack so much. But before I just committed to something from that, I had to just do just a lot of listening. I found this estampie. I've heard it a lot of different performances of solo violin, and I thought, well, I can mess with that. So I turned it into a canon that is really tricky to keep track of, and then of course we've added vocals, and this one is going to require a lot of some time together to figure out how the vocals and all how the playing together with all the rhythm and everything's going to work, because it is crazy and piles on and piles on. But in this 2-minute snippet of it, it's really, really fun, and you get the flavor of a completely blown up 13th century something or other from France that is really much smaller, and you could picture very intimate sort of couples dance, I think, the Stempi is originally. So, but it was really fun to play with this one. Really fun to play with it.
All right. Well, fun fact, our word stampede comes from the same root as estampide. It's, so it is, there's a lot of motion involved in this. All right. So let's hear Ethel and watch the performance. Kip, where was this recorded?
This is in our dear friend house, and she let us take over her house to record this set. I don't think she regretted it, but there was some tree trimming happening outside, and we had a Russian cameraman, and I myself am prone to excess. And so between the Russian cameraman and me, we, by the end of the day, we had brought in all of the clippings that had come out of the garden from the neighbor's house and hung them, passing a carabiner and rope over, and so the plants that you'll see in the closing segment was a real, we really endangered that beautiful space. And, she was just very cool about the whole thing. And it was, serendipitous to the extreme.
All right. Ethel performing some of their ancient airs and dances. We begin with Corey's arrangement of Hildegard von Bingen's O Frondens Virga. Ancient Airs and Dances, excerpts from a remarkable program by my guests, the quartet Ethel. That last piece performed in what looks like the Brooklyn version of A Tropical Jungle. That was the Étampes, anonymous French dance. Before that, Tomás Luis de Victoria, great Spanish composer of the 16th century, and a version of his motet Os Vos Omnes. Before that, a crazy, sort of oddly rhythmic arrangement of the first movement of the Bach Brandenburg Concerto No. 6. And at the top of that set, we heard Hildegard von Bingen's beautiful song, O Frondens Virge. Kip, I need to ask you, who was that remarkable keyboard player with his back to us in the Bach video?
There's a small club to which I belong. It's an anonymous club, but anyone with a haircut like a rooster is encouraged to join. And it's sort of like, the gentleman's personal gentleman and like Jeeves and so on and so forth, where there's a sort of guild and you can swap out and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure of his exact name, but, all of their skills are above board, and, you can basically ask them to do anything and they'll take it.
So the four of you have been artists in residence at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in a very specific, Dorothy, a very specific part of the museum, right?
Yes. Yes. During regular hours and operation, we have been now for about 7 years, in fact, the artists in residence on the balcony bar in the Great Hall. So when you first enter the museum up the magnificent, cascading staircase,
right,
you enter into a tremendous atrium. And on Friday and Saturday nights, between 5 p.m. and 8, you would hear music, live music, which was being performed over your head on the grand balcony. And we have performed there ourselves weekly, but we've also curated the events so that friends and magnificent artists we know, mostly based in New York City, have come and joined us and performed their own, and built their own audiences. It's been just a beautiful setting for us. We get to visit with the visitors. We get to introduce ourselves personally and make friends. It's been amazing.
And some of what we're hearing tonight are pieces that come from that residency that's been going on for many years, in which I'm sure the four of you are eager to return to at some point sooner rather than later. Corey, tell me about this next piece that we're going to hear. It's part of a larger work called Vigil by a remarkable New York-based, but I believe she's originally from Lebanon, a violinist and composer, Layal Shaker.
Yeah, Layal is a really unique violinist and composer. This is, I believe, her first quartet, and there's 4 movements. This is the last one. And it's really emotionally driven, especially this last movement. There's a little bit of anger, a lot of passion, but in other movements there's beauty, timelessness. But yeah, in this particular movement, there's lots of rhythmic actions, and she's really introduced a lot of different colors to us as well, specifically to Kip and me, in terms, because she's a violinist, so she shares how to play her techniques and all that stuff. So it's been really great working with her, and she's also just a really great human being.
So how do you deploy the multiple violinists who are available to you in this piece?
Luckily, she's a really good arranger, so I just kind of read my part and Kip reads his part. But she takes the top line, and sometimes I support her. And then I guess standard with any quartet, the lower violin adds harmony, and also with the violas as well.
Yeah. Now, Ralph, this piece, Corey says it's got a lot of passion, a lot of emotion in it. It's based on a poem by Warsan Shire, the English poet, who in this country, I guess, became suddenly well known when Beyonce used a bunch of her poems in Lemonade, I believe. But this poem is really an extraordinary one. The image of of a woman holding an atlas in her lap and asking, where does it hurt? And the answer is everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. So did Lyall give you the text to put you in the mindset of this piece?
Yes, and I'm going to pull this up because the text is actually in the front page of her score. And I remember reading this text when we're there in the room with her. We're in Dorothy's house at this point, and we've got, again, cameras set up everywhere and microphones everywhere, and we're reading this, and we're just coming to get to know this music with her, and reading this poem and just being devastated by it. And then Lyall, I think I don't want to put words into her mouth, so I'm just going to read what she wrote at the end of the poem. She presents this poem in the score, and again, just speechless from that. And then below that, her own words. I believe these are Lyall's words, and if any Ethel knows otherwise, please let me know. Lyall's words after that: for anger to fuel resilience, reaction to blossom into lasting action, incomprehension into introspection and reflection, for apathy to become vigilance. And Lyall and I actually, we had an awful lot in common about worldviews, and her words there really got to me about basically not just sitting by and letting the world happen to you, but actually to take in what the world is giving you, and then to react to it, to turn it into action, to harness the upset, the anger, the pain into action. And I can't possibly understand the history she comes from, but as a young person growing up in Lebanon, she went through so much pain and strife, and she's known war her whole life. And this poem obviously really resonated for her and me in the way my worldview, this poem and then her words around it really resonated for me in a way that caused me to think, wow, I've been so privileged in my life, and that I haven't seen these things. Nowadays, I don't know what I'm seeing, and I don't know if I'm understanding this even more, but I was really relating to it perhaps more in an empathetic place than a place of, I've been there. But now I'm wondering if I've been there. I don't know what I'm looking at now in my experience of the world, but so painful, so powerful. She is so mighty in her resolve and her voice that she puts forward, and it's just such an honor to work with her.
Well, it's a beautiful piece. This is the fourth part of it. It's called Vigil, and let's watch this performance from Ethel of music by Lyall Schaefer. Ethel and guest violinist Lyall Chalker. It's her piece, Vigil Part 4. And once again, the members of Ethel, my guests in this special New Sounds Live presentation from the virtual green space at New York Public Radio. Lots of people writing in lovely comments. Harrison writes, "Nice jacket, Kip." But most of them are more about getting the chance to hear the four of you playing live. JC writes, "First saw Ethel at TED in 2006. They were stationed among the audience for their first number, and the performance was electrifying." Dorothy, do you remember what that was?
Oh yes, yeah, that was Ralph. It was a movement from John King's.
Yep. It was Hardwood. Sweet Hardwood. Yep.
Which is
the very first movement, Sweet Hardwood.
Which is going back to the very earliest days of Ethel.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It starts with essentially open strings on the string instruments, and we were sitting.
Whoops.
Lost Ralph for a moment there.
Over our fiddles. It was an amazing experience.
Well, and
am I back?
You're back. So obviously, JC, a longtime fan. On the other hand, Roseanne writes, "Hi from the Upper West Side. My first time hearing Ethel, but it won't be my last. Love y'all."
Oh, thank you.
Aww.
Yeah.
Much love, Roseanne and JC.
Yeah.
So coming back to the music of Bach again, sort of. Kip, tell us about what you and Corey are up to in this duet arrangement of the Prelude from the Bach It's the Partita in E major, right?
Yeah, this is the Preludio from the Partita in E major. And Corey is one of the best Bach players that I know, and I get to, play next to him often. And there's really nothing much more fun as, coming from a background based in improvisation, to pretend that the sounds that are coming out of his violin are coming out of my violin. And so this is an attempt at that. I'm playing anything except the actual piece. After the first, kind of opening salvo, I moved to an accompaniment role, and this is a half improvised, half written duet part to this Preludio. And this was also a really nice moment this summer when we were thinking about what are the sorts of things that we can do virtually, that we can do distance, that still maintain a fresh, an aspect of fertility, an aspect of like new art coming out of what we're doing. And this wound up being for me, really satisfying. And it's something that, we do a bunch of these movements on the balcony bar at the Metropolitan, and occasionally we'll shred one or two in a chamber music context. But it's nice to kind of capture the lightning in a bottle a little bit.
So, Corey, are you essentially playing the piece straight, the way Bach wrote it?
Yeah, Kip says many kind words, but to distinguish this performance from any other performance on YouTube or at pre-college is the fact that Kip is a genius and that he really puts everything, all his genius, harmonic structure and reaction into this arrangement, and that's why it's awesome to play with Kip.
All right, let's give, so Ralph and Dorothy will sit this one out. Let's hear Kip and Corey playing this duet arrangement of the Preludio movement from the Bach E major Partita. Well, there you have the prelude from the Bach partita in E major, arranged for dueling violins, Kip Jones, Corey Lee from Ethel, Ralph Farris and Dorothy Lawson, of course, with us as well, the full quartet, joining me in this virtual green space for tonight's event, which, Dorothy, we're going to wrap up with a collaboration that has been sort of a constant. I mean, Ethel has been a serial collaborator over the past 20 years or so, but Todd Rundgren is someone that you have worked with for a very long time. Tell us how that first started.
Oh gosh. Oh wow. It was actually through the genius of Joe's Pub. In those days, Bill Bragan.
Right.
And it was a summer concert that they were presenting with Todd Rundgren and Joe Jackson, who had done a performance at the Public Theater of Todd's like two-man show, apparently, and formed quite a good friendship. And the people at the Public in their summer series wanted them to do a rock concert together. And Bill Bragan, out of his own funky needs to spice it up a little, change up the combination, said, and how about an opening act of a string quartet? And like you do, right, in New York City. And Todd Rundgren didn't know us, but he checked with Joe Jackson, and Joe had known us already for 4 or 5 years or something, because we had done one of his albums. One of our original violinists, Mary Rowell, was a longtime collaborator of Joe Jackson's. So we had some background there. Joe vouched for us, and Todd thought that was good enough.
Mm-hmm. And it's obviously, Ralph, a collaboration that works well for both sides, not just in terms of recasting familiar songs, but it's just it takes you into another musical world, really.
Yeah, Todd has got such an amazing catalog, and he's always reinventing, and he's been at the forefront of popular music, of rock and roll, of real just big musical thinking for since the 60s. He's absolutely awesome, and he's super fun. He's so sweet. He's a dear friend of ours, and he's been so kind and so supportive, and he's invited us to stage to back him, to be with us, to be with him. We've invited him to stage. We've done feature tours with him. We've opened for him. He's been with us all over Utah, New Jersey, everything, Europe. It's been just such a great treat to be with him, to get to know his family. He's really just an ongoing dear friend, collaborator, and such a treat to build this virtual piece with him of this classic that everyone knows and loves. And I think this video, which was developed, produced, designed by our own Kip Jones, is just magic fun.
Yeah.
It really is.
Kip, where is Todd during the making of this?
During the making, he was in some room of his house with a green screen behind him. And thank God that he owned a green screen and was willing to just just shoot the thing in front of it. But he went out on some walks and brought his tripod and camera and shot some gorgeous B-roll of where he lives. And he lives in this absurdly beautiful perch. I believe one wall of the house doesn't even exist because the prevailing weather is so direct, is so predictable that you could just have a cube with 5 sides.
We're talking Hawaii, right? We're
talking Hawaii, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just too curious. He lives in Hawaii.
Right. So he's in Hawaii, Corey's in California, Dorothy's in South Carolina, Ralph and you are in different boroughs of New York, and it all comes together in this performance of Todd Rundgren's classic song, I Saw the Light. We'll use this to wrap up this New Sounds Live Green Space collaboration with Ethel. And to the 4 of you, it's always fun, even when we can't all be in the same room at the same time. Great to see the 4 of you, and I hope we do get to see each other in real life soon.
John, we're so grateful to you. We love you. We love your listeners. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Love you guys.
Here's Todd Rundgren and Ethel with I Saw the Light.
En dan roi det mycket på så upp sig. Ja. Yes. Nej gud. Yes. Så det så nu är så det men. Bäst man in det kasma. Ma. Kanske missar något så.
Late last night, I was feeling something wasn't right. There was not another soul inside. Only you. So we walked along. Oh, I knew that there was something wrong, and a feeling hit me oh so strong about you. Up at me, and the answer was plain to see, 'cause I saw the light in your eyes, in your eyes. Oh, we had our flame, I just never would suspect a thing, till that little bell began to ring in my head. But I tried to run, though I knew it wouldn't help me none, 'cause I couldn't ever love no one, or so I said. But my feelings for you were just something I never knew, till I saw the light in your
Yes. Nej, det är så jag heter.